Okay. Hello, everyone. No matter where you are in the world, whether it's a good evening or good afternoon or good morning, I extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us from the various regions. Welcome to the virtual session of the Bella Vista and Sydney Salesforce Developer Group. Thank you for registering part of we are privileged to have Alok Kumar, a Salesforce architect, here with us today. He will be sharing a valuable insight about the using the Salesforce Flow to call the HTTP callout and screen reactivity with a real-time demo. Before we proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Sakthivel and a senior Salesforce developer at Tech4 Services and the community group leader for the Bella Vista area in Western Sydney, Australia. I am actively available on social channels, so feel free to reach out to me anytime. Regarding the upcoming session, if anyone interested to share your knowledge to the community, feel free to reach out to me. We will conduct the session for the upcoming days. And also during the session, please use the chat window for any questions you may have, and we will have a Q&A discussion afterward. Without any further delay, I will now hand over the virtual stage to Alok Kumar. Over to you, Alok Kumar. Please feel free to share your screen and start your session.
Sure, Shakti. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to give session in front of so many people here. So I'll just share my screen and then we can get started. Yeah. So just before we start the topic, I just wanted to recap like with what is Lightning Flow or basically why Salesforce introduced Lightning Flow. So as we all are aware that Salesforce, the core funda of Salesforce is low code, no code, right? And keeping that in mind, Salesforce introduced Lightning Flows. Earlier there were visual flows were there, but they have enhanced it and brought more and more feature into Lightning Flows where you can build many complex functionalities just with the drag and drop of the elements without even writing a single line of code. Okay, and that's where it was increasing the productivity as well as the feature releases, and it the business was going on a very faster mode. Now uh, your lightning flows are basically categorized into five type. I'll just drop it a little bit down. Yeah, so lightning flows, we have five types of lightning flows where we have screen flow, record triggered, schedule flows, auto launch, platform event. So basically by combination of these lightning flow types you can build n number of scenarios, including any client or user interaction screens, screens related flows, or if you want some operation to be done in backend on the DML of the records, that's where you can use the record triggered flows. If you want to schedule some jobs, you can go ahead and do the schedule flows. Also, if you want to create a reusable flow which can be used in different scenarios, if you have kind of build a generic flow, that also you can build by using the auto launch flows. Okay, and last but not the least, again when we have the event driven architecture or integration, that's where our platform event flows are also coming into picture, where you can subscribe to different channels and on the real time basis you can get the informations. So these are a couple of types of flows which we have in Salesforce. These are the main base lightning flows which we have. Okay, so to start with our session, so what all things we are going to cover in this? Okay, so we are going to cover two main topics. One is screen reactivity, another one is integration in flows, or that is basically HTTP callout. So I'll start with screen reactivity. So what screen reactivity is? So in short, if I tell, screen reactivity is the feature which has been provided by Salesforce so that the different components on the same screen can talk to each other. Okay, so this is a general definition what we are having screen reactivity. But if I give you, or if we go ahead with the example, then it will be better to understand how screen reactivity is going to play a very major role. Okay, so for example, let's say your client is a banking client. Okay, and you got a feature that you need to build a simple calculator. Okay, in the flows you need to build a simple calculator where end users will be using this calculator to calculate, let's say, simple interest or anything. Okay, now if we go on the traditional method, so I'll show you both how earlier we used to do it in the traditional way and how screen reactivity is going to help. So in traditional method, usually we used to keep all the input element on one screen, and then there was a next screen where the output will be calculated and displayed. Okay, so for example, let's say I have built this screen, okay, where I'm giving amount invested, tenure and interest, let's say I'm giving something, and then I had to click next to see the outcome. Okay. Uh, okay, sure. I think it got refreshed. I'll just put the inputs again. So to see the output, we had to go every time next. Okay. And then if you have to change it, we used to come to previous and then make the changes and then again go to next. But now assume that any agent who is working on, let's say, 10,000, 15,000 calculations like this, it will be a nightmare for that particular agent to click next so many times and then coming back again. Okay. So that's where it was lagging this feature, that if we can show the same value on the same screen with the changes, it should be able to show the changes. Okay, that's where your screen reactivity is going to be a big savior, which Salesforce has released. And I think last time it was in beta, but in winter 24 it's going to be generally available. Okay, so now how screen reactivity is going to help in this. Okay, so traditional way we saw every time we are clicking next and we are getting the value, but in normal with screen reactivity, now if you see, if I give any value here, okay, I'm giving tenure, okay, and as soon as I start dragging the interest, you can see the amount which is there, it is automatically getting updated. So how this is happening? So because of the screen reactivity feature in backend, whatever changes I'm going to do in these component, okay, like amount invested, tenure or interest rate, whatever changes I am doing, this is telling my final outcome element that there has been change in the other elements, and accordingly my final outcome element is going to get updated. Okay, so that's the beauty here. So in nutshell, if I tell here, if you see my all other three components like amount invested, tenure, interest, all these three components are talking to final amount box. Okay, so any changes done here will be reflected in amount. And it's not only interest rate. Let's say if I'm going to change in amount, let's say I'm giving any value, my amount is going to get updated automatically. So here, first of all, I'm saving a lot of time um, in terms of agent. If I say so, he or she can do any kind of comparison as well. They can do their calculation on a very faster basis. Okay, so this was the beauty of screen reactivity. Now I'll show you how we can enable screen reactivity, because this is a new feature and that's where Salesforce wanted to first test it. Okay, so Salesforce has introduced a way to enable this feature and then test in your sandboxes. So how we can enable this? So for that, we should go to process automation setting, and then in the end we have an option called opt-in for reactive screen beta, because currently it is in beta feature, right? So that's where it is asking for opt-in. Once it will become generally available, then I don't think so you even have to come here and make it true. Okay, so for now, if since your sandboxes are in the previous version, you can come to process automation settings and you can just enable this checkbox. Okay, and then you can click on save. Now I'll show you the component as well. So in component, what we are doing is we have just created three boxes here. I have an amount and I just created a formula field named as final amount. Okay, now if I show you the formula, so this is a formula which is taking the input from all the other three boxes and doing some calculation and showing me the output. Okay, and because of this feature, now this formula is going to capture the changes every time, and then it will refine its outcome and then it will show it on the screen. Okay, so this is the beauty of your screen reactivity. And here I have just shown couple of components, but here you can build a big single page applications as well on a single screen by using the flows. Okay, so that let's say you are creating four sections in your whole page, and then one section can talk to another section. So these types of dynamic features as well you can introduce. So that's where your screen flow is going to take a heavy advantage going forward when we will start using this screen reactivity. Okay, so this was this was the demo point from a demo of how screen reactivity is going to help you. Okay, now let's take some of the benefits of what the screen reactivity will be. First is your improved user experience. You are not doing any kind of next and previous here, right? You can just make the entries, and then accordingly you're seeing the outcomes. Okay, so this is your first advantage what I have seen, that it's going to improve your user experience as well as the user adaptability for the flows. Okay, next is your reducing the manual screen refreshes. So you now, after making the or after giving a user input, you don't need to basically refresh the other screens to get the final outcome. Everything is dynamic, and on the instance you're going to see it. Okay, and last is your, it is going to increase your flexibility. Okay, so that you can build big single page applications as well with good user experiences without even writing a single line of code and in a very shorter time. Okay, so that's where your flexibility is also going to get increased. Okay, so these were related to our screen reactivity. From technical point, if we see from the technical point, it is very simple. We are just enabling a checkboxes, and then we are working with some formula fields which are, but from a business endpoint, if we see, this is going to be a very good value addition. Okay, where for any kind of flow you can even reduce your number of screens what you have currently in the system. You can even reduce them, or you can even completely club them for a single page. So these were related to the screen reactivity. Now we will move towards our next topic, that is our HTTP callout. So I guess everyone has done integration in their span till now. Okay, or they must be having some idea of the integration. So earlier, whenever the integration was comes into picture, team used to start looking for all the developers. Okay, who will come, who will write the HTTP code, HTTP callouts and all, and they will make the HTTP request, get the response, parsing everything they will do, and then we will proceed forward. But now with this feature, Salesforce is going to eliminate that dependency also. So let's say if you are not a developer, if you're an admin guy, okay, or if your team is having mostly admin guys, developers are, let's say, they are not available at this moment. So even an admin person can come and set up these callouts. Okay, they can even set up the integration directly from the flows. Okay, so that's where your HTTP callout has been introduced by Salesforce in the Lightning flows. Okay, this was introduced, I think, last to last release, and in last release they made get callout as generally available, and post was in beta. But in going forward in winter 24, you will be getting all the functionalities like get, post, patch, delete. Everything is going to come as a generally available. Okay, and that's where your integration from flow is going to take a big leap. Okay, and I'm sure many teams will start using it. So I'll show with a demo how we can set up. Okay, so I just prepared a small demo for that. So basically I have used an external service for an email validation. So whatever email we provide on our records, we want to validate that whether they are genuine emails, or what type of functionalities we can do on that email. Basically whether those emails are deliverable or not, we can, or whether they are free emails or whether they are paid emails. So those types of functionalities we wanted to perform, and that's where for a demo purpose I use an external web service, that is abstraction API. Okay, I just created my accounts and all in that, and then I got my primary key and whatever documentation how the API needs to get called. Okay, now, okay, so now next I am going to show you first how you can set up this thing. Okay, so how you can set up an HTTP callout. Okay, so for that, first thing we need to create a named credential. For setting up HTTP callout in flows, named credentials are must. Okay, So we need to create a named credential first. You can see I have created a name credential here with the information which I received from my endpoint or from my provider, that is this particular abstract API provider. I have created a named credential. Okay, it's the normal process how we usually create name credential even for other services as well. Okay, next, when we come to flow, okay, and in the actions, you will start getting a new button called create HTTP callout. Okay, so now as soon as you click on HTTP callout, it will just ask for a first name. So I'll give a like a demo, and then it will ask you to select the name credential. So whichever name credential you will select, the authentication will happen based on that. Okay, so that's where I have selected a name credential, and as soon as I selected, you can see that I will start getting the URL which I have given in my name credential. Okay, next is I'll just click on next, and I'll just give a label here, test. Now from here you can select the method. So that's what I was telling, this is my preview org, so that's why I'm able to see all the methods here which is going to come in winter 24. Okay, so you can select which method you want to perform. Okay, in our case it is going to be get method, so I'll just select a get. Okay, so get method I have selected. Next is, we know the uh, endpoint, but in this URL, which is the actual server which is going to help us, right? So for that we have to give the URL path as well. So in my case it's followed by v1. Okay, so this is your URL, and then so this is your generic URL to that particular server, and then in that particular server, which exact sub server we need to hit to get the information. Okay, so that's my URL path here. So URL path, again, it's a required field, so you need to find out, like you can get this information in the documentation as well. Like in my case, uh, I can show you in the documentation. So you can see that they have given it slash v1. Okay, so I have used the same URL path here. Next is, since it's a get method, okay, so whenever we do a get call out, we send some parameters into it. Okay, based on which the call out happens, we get the records based on what parameters we are sending. Okay, so that's where we are going to define the parameters here. Okay, what all parameters will be there. So as part of documentation, I have two parameters into it, that is API key and email. Okay, so I'll just give my first parameter name as API key. You can select what is the data type for that. Okay, whether it's a date, time, double, integer. So in my case, it's a string. Okay, and you can mark them as required also. Okay, so this is my first parameter. Since in my request I'll be needing two parameters here. One is the API key and another one is email. So that's where I'll be creating another parameter here, that is email. Okay, I'll be creating email, and again I can select the type as string, and I can make it as required. Okay, so till here the basic setup is done. Method we have set up, URL path we have set up, we have set up the parameters as well. Now next and very important thing is, we need to provide a sample JSON or sample response to this callout element. Then only the flow will create a backend object for this. Backend object means a kind of runtime variable to handle your responses. Okay, so that's where we need to provide a sample response. So uh, for that, I'll just take a response from here, and I'll just paste it into normal JSON format. We need to paste it. Okay, and as soon as I click on review, you can see that the complete structure has been created in the flow. So these are the object structures, okay, which has been created in the flow, and we can use, so these variables will be exposed in the flow, so you can use them and do your further business processings. Okay, like email and deliverability, quality scores, all these things will be available as a variable. Okay, so in our case we got this complete data structure. we can now click on done. Okay, so as once you will click on done, if everything is fine, you can see a green tick here, that is your sample which you have provided is a genuine JSON structure. Okay, now we are going to save it. Okay, as soon as I save it, I'll just do something like final setting. And now the main part here we need to see is, we saw that we have provided two parameters there which are of required type, that is API key and email. Now they were the key, now we have to provide the value as well. Okay, so in my case I have API key as a static value, so I can just take this and I can put it in the value. But let's say if you want to take some element from the flow on a dynamic nature, or let's say you have created a text box and you want to capture the value from the text box, that also you can use it. So as soon as you will click on the box, you will start seeing all the variables which is available in your flow. Okay, you can select any one variable. Okay, like I'm selecting at email address. Okay, and then I can click on done. Okay, so now you can see my action is created. HTTP callout, everything is set up now. Okay, so this is how we are setting up. Now how we are going to consume the response. Okay, so for that I'll just show you on the existing screen. Let's say I'll put a display text here. Now in display text in the record picker, you can see I'm getting option from the actions, that is output from final settle. This is the action which we had created for HTTP callout. Okay, now if I click on this, you will get something like 2xs 2xx response code and default execution. We need to select the 2xx. Okay, now as soon as you click on 2xx, you will start seeing the variables which was created when we gave the sample JSON, right? Like our deliverability, autocorrect, email, quality score, all these things we had seen that the flow has created in the backend automatically based on the JSON you provided. So you can select uh, any of these variables and you can show it on the UI, or you can do the further processings. Okay, so this is how we consume the response from the call out. So two steps. So basically, if we see on overall, we have three steps here. First is creating the named credentials. Second is creating a HTTP callout consuming these named credentials along with the other parameters based on your request, whether it's a get, post, patch, whatever it is. Okay. And the last part is how we are going to consume the response. So this is how we consume the response. Okay. So you can display anything here. Like if you want, you can select deliverability or anything. So I have already I have already done the setup for this earlier, so I can quickly show you how it's going to work. Okay, I'll just reload this. Okay, now I'll just show you how this call out is going to happen. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll first I will show you like any dummy email ID, and we'll see what the response we will get out of that. So let's say I'm checking test@test.com. That's a dummy email. So now if I click on next, since it's an integration, it might take a little bit time. So yeah, so my call out was done. Okay, and I got the response. If you see here, I got the complete JSON here. I can use any variable out of these. So on the UI, I have just put three variables. That is a deliverability. So it is telling me that this email ID is non-deliverable. If I send any email, it will bounce back. Similarly, is it a free? Is it a disposable? All these informations I can utilize. Okay. Now, if I give any genuine email, like I'll just give my email, and if I try that, so you can see that the deliverability is deliverable here. So this means this is a genuine email. You can do the deliverability here, and since it's a free Gmail, so that's why you're seeing free as well. So this is how you can do the connections, or you can do a call out from flow by using the http callouts. Okay, so as you can see, we haven't written even a single line of code here. We don't need to write any test class, we don't need to write any mock responses or anything. It's just simple drag and drop and configuration. Okay, and your integration is up and running. So this is the beauty of the new feature. This is http callout which Salesforce has provided. And winter 24, it is going to be a huge, because as I showed you, they are going to introduce everything. Not only get or post, you have get, post, patch, delete, everything you are going to get here. Okay, so this was basically from the demo point of view. Now we can just go over of what the benefits are. Okay, so first thing is, it is easy to do integration now, right? With just a drag and drop, and you can just do the integration. Okay, you don't need to write the apex and other stuff. So your, again, the feature releases will be very quick here. Okay, in terms of integration as well, your feature releases are going to be very quick. Okay, and it can also be, you know, I have just shown you a very simple example of integration, but you can do the complex integrations as well from external system. Okay, similarly, if you want to send some notification to any external systems, that also can be used, that also can be done. So these were couple of benefits from http callouts in the flow. Okay, and I'm sure this is going to be used by many people in future, because this is again going to fast track your development as well. So with this, I'm open for any questions anyone is having, so we can take up that.
Uh, this is Sai.
Sure.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. Right.
Yeah. This Git has some, I think we tried using in Auspos,
Mm-hmm.
Australia Post.
Mm-hmm.
When I tried of using that
Mm-hmm.
in using the postcode, when I write a suburb,
Mm-hmm.
I get a couple of API which
Mm-hmm.
says postcode of it.
Okay.
When I tried postcode
Mm-hmm.
and the system hangs, I don't know why. I don't know why
So
the system's hanging and keep
yeah.
on hanging. Because from postcode, I have
Mm-hmm.
to find the state. From
Okay.
state, I
Mm-hmm.
want to get that which is county. Because this is a requirement here, which
Mm-hmm.
I tried. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing I did with the open JavaScripts,
Mm-hmm.
where the load was fine. It was did that very well. But
Okay. But
sometimes if
from
you're having a multiple things here,
mm-hmm.
multiple payload which is going to based on the requirement, like if I put a
Mm-hmm.
suburb, I want to get a list of postcodes. When I
Mm-hmm.
select the postcode, I have to find the state belongs to the postcode. So there was a
Okay.
challenging with which me. Anyway, it's still to be
Mm.
matured. However, for a
Yeah.
small thing, it's really good. But this was challenging which at present we are having.
Yes, I mean, see, I agree on that point. The reason is that these are the new features, and
Mm,
based on the our experiences and based on their test Salesforce testings as well, they're definitely going to make it mature. It is similar to like how the flows got matured from Visual Flow to Lightning Flows, right? So this feature is also going to be the similar way. Right now, as far as I'm thinking, in Winter 24, they are going, because right now the post was, again, it was in beta feature, only get was available and all that. But when they are releasing the complete feature as a generally available, then I'm sure you should not be seeing these types of issues. But still, if you are seeing this, then definitely I'm very sure that Salesforce is going to take it up, and they will definitely work out on this thing.
exactly. That's like because again, when you are using the middle system like MuleSoft, where the
Yeah.
payloads to be defined, so
Right.
those are the things which we have to consider. But thank you very much for your demo. It's really awesome. Which I tried once, then I left it, then I went to
Sure.
JavaScript as of now. In future, we
Mm,
may come into that. Thank you very much.
sure. Thank you. So this is my contact information. So if anyone wants to contact me personally as well, they can connect with me. So I have my own YouTube channel, that is Technogeek SFDC. Similarly, I have a blog site as well. So I try to put most of the contents whichever I get from the releases or from my experience, I try to put on those. So you can have a look into those as well. So with this, I will
Yeah,
stop sharing my.
that's
Yeah,
great. Alak, we have few questions in the chat window. Maybe can you
sure,
look
sure,
and then answer? Yeah.
sure. Uh, Um, okay, so for Prabhanshu, currently they're not accepting the XML. It's only the JSON, because I tried with XML and it is not creating the uh, objects. Basically, JSON is your much utilized, I would say, much utilized payload structure. So that's where they have focused on JSON. But I think this is a good idea for the idea exchange. We can put that, and maybe we can see if uh, Salesforce can take it up. Uh, Next is Parth. So Parth is asking name credentials. Yeah, Parth. So name credentials are required because your main authorization and authentication is happening via name credential. So name credentials are required, and I'm sure going forward, any kind of integration Salesforce is going to uh, bring in, they will be considering the name credentials. So yeah, still it is required for that. Then we have, will that work for REST and SOAP APIs? Yeah, for REST APIs, it's going to work. SOAP APIs, as we know, it's an XML callout site, so it's an XML structure. So SOAP API, I don't think so at this moment, but definitely you can give it a try on that. But since your REST is supporting the JSON, so that's where REST is there. But SOAP is still very doubtful because the structure is completely different, which is not being supported currently.
That's correct. Yeah.
Then we have Ali. So there is a limit on the number of HTTP uh, call out that can be made per flow depending on the yeah, Ali, I mean, see, agreed on that. So whenever we see integrations anywhere, right? So the performance of the integration, again, it depends on both the systems, your provider as well as your consumer. So if your provider is also slow, then those are the also scenarios where the performance issues can come up. But yeah, I mean, as I was also discussing this, so if we see performance issues in HTTP callout from flows, I'm sure definitely Salesforce is going to take it up, because since it's a very new product, so going forward in the future releases, they're definitely going to make it more and more mature. Uh, Next is Supret. So can we use the flows to connect to external GraphQL API source? Supret, honestly speaking, I never tried this, but I think we should be able to. But I need to give it a try after, I mean, before assuring anything. Uh, if it is a simple HTTP callout, it should be able to do. But if there is a differences, then yeah, I need to check on that. And then next we have Manjunath YC. We have, can we call API when record is? Yeah, Manju. So this particular action is also available in the record triggered flows in after context, not in the before. Because as you know, like normal also in triggers, we do the integration callouts from a future method, right? So these particular API callouts will be available as an action in only in the after update, after context, not in the before context.
Okay.
Yep.
And when we get the response back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So using that response, we have to update some records. Can we do
Mm-hmm.
that also?
I mean, see, honestly speaking, usually when we do an integration, right? So
Yeah.
our current sync process, we should not totally rely on the integration in terms of DML operation. The
Mm.
reason why I'm telling this is because your integration is something which even you cannot predict. It,
Okay.
if the servers are down, definitely it is going to take time, and you can see the timeout limits as well. That's
Yeah.
where in normal trigger scenarios also we have future methods. But
Mm.
here, I mean, this scenario, I'm sure you can do it because this action I have seen in the record triggered flows as well, but I have not tested it. But yeah, this action is available, so maybe we need to test this thing actually.
Okay. Thank you.
Suprit, yeah, definitely give a try on this GraphQL integrations from the flow. I'll try and I'll let you know how this comes up, with the GraphQL.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's part. I think. Guys, anyone have any further question? Feel free to use the chat window. Okay, if not, then we can wrap it up. Thank you once again, Kumar, for sharing such an informative session. You covered most of the essential features of the Salesforce Flow, features like HTTP callout and then reactive screen. Yeah, it's a really amazing feature with Salesforce introducing the flow. Flow is a future of. This will undoubtedly helpful to everyone. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Once again, thank you, and
Thank you. Thanks, Shakti. Thanks, everyone.